Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Advanced and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And we got a Sunday show for you guys here today that I think a lot of you are going to enjoy. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. Also, make sure you check out our podcast we have pinned below. Let me get into the topic here. So, as you guys know, normally we don't produce those shows on Sunday. Obviously, going to depend when you see this show. We don't do it unless we feel like there's something that is worth touching on. So occasionally we will do a show. So what happened? As you guys know, Stephen A. Smith is the face of ESPN. And what comes with that is, I guess, this need to say things that always generate attention, views, and buzz for the network. But there have been times in the past where he's kind of crossed the line, and various people in media had to kind of reel him in and call him out for it. But of course, he's usually always defensive. In his mind, his job is to entertain the audience, and sometimes he goes too far. With his Shohei Ohtani comments, excuse me, with the Nigerian players' comments, other situations. But recently, something took place on ESPN. As you guys know, Zion Williamson has been having some personal challenges with his weight, as do a lot of people, right? For some people, it's a sensitive issue. Now, in the case of Zion, I can understand people being less sympathetic towards him because his job is to be a professional NBA player, and therefore you're actually getting paid to be in tip-top shape. Most people are not being paid to be in tip-top shape. You're being paid tens of millions of dollars to ensure that you're in the best possible shape to go out there and deliver on the contract that you were given by the New Orleans Pelicans. And Stephen A. Smith, a while ago, made some comments about Zion Williamson in a game when they played against LeBron James. I believe it was in the in-season tournament. And I guess Zion was a little bit overweight or whatever. And he was talking about his belly and making fun of him. So recently, they were discussing the New Orleans Pelicans on ESPN. And they asked Stephen A. Smith to weigh in on Zion Williamson as he was going through the various players. And when he got to Zion Williamson, he started basically talking about his love for cheeseburgers and all of that. So for those of you who didn't hear what Stephen A. Smith had to say, I want to play for you now, and then we'll come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what he had to say here.
Zion Williamson, it's not about his game. It's about how many burgers he's eating and whether or not he's going to be in shape, or is he going to keep eating McDonald's and have chefs clamoring for him to come to their restaurants. That's what he has to prove, that the chefs don't love him any longer, okay? That he's committed to playing basketball and being in shape.
So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say. Now, where does Jalen Rose come in all of this? As you guys know, Jalen Rose used to work for ESPN for a number of years. He was recently part of when they were cord cutting or whatever, when they fired a lot of front-facing talent like Max Kellerman himself, Jeff Van Gundy, Mark Jackson, and a plethora of other personalities. But during his tenure at ESPN, there's one thing that Jalen Rose is synonymous for, amongst others, but one of the things I remember him for is him constantly pushing back on the way athletes were covered by big media. He's like, listen, if you want to talk about a guy, talk about a guy. If you want to critique his game, critique his game. If you want to do it in a colorful way, fantastic. But don't cross the line to where you start taking personal attacks in a way that can actually go out there and really affect, number one, their reputation. And if you affect the person's reputation, you can affect their earning power. Just look at the case of Russell Westbrook. He infamously had this spat on ESPN First Take with Skip Bayless, right? Because of the way Skip Bayless used to call, for instance, Chris Bosh at the Miami Heat, Bosh Spice, and all of these different names, and he called him out. He called, he made fun of Skip Bayless's basketball, record when he played in high school, I believe, and it became a very, very uncomfortable situation that you never saw on ESPN First Take again. And then there was the Kwame Brown situation. Now, if you guys know anything about Stephen A. Smith and Kwame Brown, Stephen A. Smith really, really made a name at ESPN when he started making fun of Kwame Brown, especially after the Lakers were able to trade him along with other players to land Pau Gasol in 2007. And he was making fun, like he was really, really going in on Kwame Brown. Well, apparently Jalen Rose took some exception with that, and he was one of the people that told Stephen A. Smith, listen, you need to stop calling these guys scrubs. And Stephen A. Smith essentially promised that he would never call them scrubs. So after Stephen A. Smith's comments on Zion Williamson, Jalen Rose took to Twitter to basically call out Stephen A. Smith. And I want to read you some of his tweets because he's the only person he was talking about here. He goes, "They're athletes. Media folks gonna trash you for fame, get paid, and then apologize when the check's clear." Another tweet he put up, "I am so happy that I didn't sell out or clout chase while using views, subscriptions, and funds I made in the process as validation." Now, to that, Stephen A. Smith put out a bunch of tweets. One of them was in a response to a video that the New Orleans Pelicans put together making fun of Stephen A. Smith using his words as he was talking about other players. And Stephen A. Smith responded with the following: "I could zero in, but I won't. I happen to be fans of several players plus the coach and definitely that city. You play, I'll be watching. I'm not going anywhere. Good luck." Stephen A. Smith then says to response of the New Orleans Pelicans Twitter account when they were showing here his points per game, 1.5 points per game and 1 assist, the most confusing stat line in the history of sports. We won't even get into that. Stephen A. Smith then writes, "Less," whatever that means, "can't score when you can't play due to a devastating knee injury. That's my fact. Now, what's y'all excuse for never winning anything? Can't wait to see y'all in April, May, and June. We won't even go there. Good luck. Tell my boys, Coach Green and CJ, I'm always rooting for them." How you say that and then at the end say I'm rooting for them? Bro, whatever. And then he puts up another post. And this is a response to Jalen Rose. And he says, "One more thing. Thank you so much for watching First Take and the Stephen A. Smith Show. It's so appreciated. We love the viewers and the views." Now that was in response to Jalen Rose basically saying, "I'm not selling out to do for basically clicks and views and all of these things." Listen, Stephen A. Smith, I personally believe that is going to say anything to make money for his network. I think Stephen A. Smith has made his intentions crystal clear. His intentions are the following. Either get a $20 million a year contract from ESPN. If he doesn't, he's going to do every single thing to boost his podcast on his way out of ESPN to then go out there and get a deal that mirrors Pat McAfee. Stephen A. Smith, main play in all of this is to make buku money. And if it means saying whatever it takes, because his goal is to make sure he's always getting ratings, because then he can go and take that information and say, "Hey, look what I've done for you. You guys go ahead and give me a big contract." Now, if it means slandering our athlete's name all the way to the top, then so be it. That's why he said, "Thank you for your views and your views." Talking about the views you guys tune in and give him. I don't watch ESPN First Take. I just watch clips online. I don't sit down and watch the show. I don't have that kind of time to sit there for 2 hours and watch that show. But anyway, this is what he is talking about, right? In the case of Jalen Rose, I think Jalen Rose, now that he's no longer working at ESPN, is happy with the fact that he can walk out of there with his dignity in place, right? He can. I was talking to Marco about this. I'm like, there are levels people can get to, but there's a certain level, like, I'm like, all right, yo, I don't need all that stress. Like, you see all of those guys with those mega deals and all, there's a lot of stress, a lot of commitment. You're basically a slave for a lot of these companies that are giving you these massive deals. Like, you think, oh, they're independent. No, they're not. They say you got to work this day, and if you're sick, you got to work. If something happened with your kids, you got to work. And I'm like, what kind of madness is that? Like, I was already rich. Now I'm trying to get richer, but I've lost all of my freedom. What am I really accomplishing here? Some people don't care, right? Stephen A. Smith acts like as if he's somebody that doesn't have any money, and he's willing to just go aggressively. And when you get the thing, you're still going to be working. So to me, that's his aim. I think Jalen Rose is not playing with him. I don't think Jalen Rose is the person that Stephen A. Smith wants to start responding to. I don't think that's the person. There are other people you can respond to. I don't think that's the dude. Because Jalen Rose is not somebody that's going to hold back. Number one, Jalen Rose knows Stephen A. Smith, and he's been working with him and worked with him for a very long time. So he knows a lot of this stuff about him. So I don't think that's the guy you want to go to, because Jalen Rose can be a savage. Just go look at those clips of him and Skip Bayless. He can be a total savage. So these are my thoughts. What I want to know from you guys, what do you think about what Stephen A. Smith had to say? What do you think about Jalen Rose had to say? And do you think Stephen A. Smith is ultimately going to address this next week? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Catch you on the next show.